Battle of Passchendaele was part of the Third Battle of Ypres in Belgium on the Western Front. New Zealand troops were involved in an unsuccessful attempt to capture the Bellevue Spur on the 12th of October 1917 from the defending Germans. The final objective was to seize the Pilgrim Ridge and the Battle of Passchendaele Plateau to open a route for a push on the town of Rulers, an important transport centre. From here, the British would move north to the coast in order to undermine the German U-boat facilities. On the 9th of October 1917, several high-ranking British officers were interested in halting the Flanders offensive due to the poor weather conditions. However, Field Marshal Sir Douglas Haig was persistent and believed that a breakthrough on the Western Front was possible and another push at Passchendaele would secure the victory. He claimed, "The enemy is now much weakened in morale and lacks the desire to fight." However, from the 9th of October, 25 millimetres of rain poured down and lasted 2 days, and a further 14 millimetres fell between the 10th and the 12th of October. While this rain may seem insignificant, the result was a muddy abyss. 3 years of bombardment over the area had destroyed the drainage systems, and the ground became a sea of mud. To reach the new starting position of the attack, the Anzac brigades had to travel through the entire night in single file along a few kilometres of duckboards. Many of the reinforcements were lost in the mud, falling into shell holes or blown up on the journey. Some Australians and New Zealanders reached the first objective, the Red Line, positioned 11 kilometres ahead. The second objective, the Blue Line, was the starting point for the assault on Passchendaele and was another 800 metres beyond the Red Line. The final objective, the Green Line, was 400 metres beyond the village. However, these lines were merely map references, and in reality the terrain was consistently a collection of mud, water and debris. Few made it further than the Red Line. The attacks used early in September of 1917 had been a success, with the assistance of artillery bombardment, and this technique was set to be used at Passchendaele. However, the mud significantly reduced its impact. Many of the shells landed deep within the mud, and the shock was either absorbed or the shell failed to explode. This bombardment was crucial as the Germans had built a series of pillboxes along the ridge, fortresses with machine guns and layers of barbed wire, as well as further concrete fortresses located on the ground behind. The intention of Field Marshal Haig was to bombard the Germans to break up the barbed wire and shock the enemy's soldiers. However, the mud caused such disruption to the New Zealand artillery that it could not be properly positioned, resulting in the attack being so weak and ineffective that some of the shells caused casualties to New Zealand soldiers while the German pillboxes atop the Bellevue Spur were unaffected. Along with the pillboxes, there were German machine gun posts stretching all along the Bellevue Spur, one of the smaller ridges leading to the Passchendaele Ridge. When the troops reached the barbed wire, it was fully intact, untouched by the attempted artillery attack. They resorted to using wire cutters, however, were massacred by the Germans while stuck beneath the spur, attempting to make it through a single gap in the barbed wire. Some soldiers were up to the hips in mud or stuck in shell craters. As rifles began to fill with mud, the Germans took advantage and placed their machine guns atop the pillboxes. The surviving withdrew with a total of 2,000 wounded, and all attacking units had been forced back to their starting position. Within the first few hours, New Zealand had suffered a total of 2,700 casualties, with 846 fatalities. These first 4 hours caused 6% of the total New Zealand casualties during World War I. It was almost impossible to rescue the wounded men. Evacuation via stretchers became extremely difficult, with each stretcher requiring 6 to 8 men and taking up to 6 hours, as soldiers attempted to move through the mud with a lack of duckboard tracks. The ordeal left the men exhausted. However, with the aid post already congested from previous battles on the 9th of October, stretcher bearers were vitally important. Due to the vast number of wounded, 1,200 men of the 4th Brigade were contracted for stretcher bearer work on the night of the 12th and the early morning of the 13th, in addition to the 147th Brigade lent to the division for this purpose. In his book, The Official History of the New Zealand Rifle Brigade, Lieutenant Colonel W. S. Austin pays special tribute to riflemen W. C. Turner and M. Hennessy, who while under fire rescued men from drowning in shell holes, as well as the efforts of riflemen J. L. Keogh, F. K. Judd, B. Booker, F. A. Clark, F. Backham, S. G. Sterling, D. Stevenson, F. Smith, H. F. Awkward, and F. A. Newell, and C. J. Arnold, who effortlessly spent the 11th to the 14th rescuing the wounded, as well as the medical officers of the 1st and 2nd Battalions, Captains R. H. Baxter and P. B. Benham, and the brigade pack train under Lieutenant C. M. Rout, with his volunteers who, despite the state of the roads and constant shell fire, maintained the supplies of water, rations, and ammunition. Special mention is also made to Reverend H. Clark, chaplain to the 2nd Battalion. The blackest day in New Zealand military history was on the 12th of October 1917. The continuing rain caused major issues with mud, and many men fell into shell holes and perished, as well as countless deaths from enemy fire, with 846 deaths in just 4 hours. By the end of the day, the casualties were in the thousands, and it took 2.5 days just to clear the battlefield of the dead and injured. In terms of lives lost, the ridgeline to the village was the site of the greatest disaster in New Zealand history since 1840. The remaining members of the New Zealand Division retreated and were relieved by Canadian troops several weeks later. When the New Zealand Division was withdrawn in February 1918, they had suffered 18,000 casualties, including 5,000 deaths. The significance of this number is expressed when compared to other major New Zealand battles. 2,700 died at Gallipoli and 2,000 in the Battle of the Somme in France, and of the 5,000 deaths at Flanders Fields, 30% occurred on the 12th, compared to 2,721 over a 9-month period at Gallipoli. 4,600 of those servicemen still lie today in Flanders Fields in Belgium. They are represented in the Tyneside Cemetery, with the graves of more New Zealanders than any other cemetery beyond New Zealand shores. There are 1,696 names located here, with 520 graves, and a further 1,176 New Zealanders who have no known grave are represented on the New Zealand Memorial Apse on the curved rear wall. However, these numbers do not include those who died after the battle in field dressing stations and hospitals behind the lines. In addition to the Tyneside Cemetery, there are 2 further memorials for New Zealanders who died. These are the Missings Memorial and at Boots Cemetery, Polygon Wood. The commemorations every year for campaigns such as Flanders Fields allow us to honour those who have fought on our behalf to enable the freedom and rights that we enjoy today. It is of interest worldwide to remember our heritage and respect those who have established and maintained our national identity by their courageous actions and sacrifice. Journeying to the sites of the battle keeps the Battle of Passchendaele relevant and significant to us as modern citizens today. Coming together gives us the opportunity to bond with others and reflect on the impact of war on individuals and communities.